You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here. And I got to say it, absolutely beautiful, cool Northport, Florida. It is wonderful outside. I was out riding the motorcycle today, showing houses, and just want to drop a little information out there. We're Everybody watch out for motorcycle riders, especially this guy, and really take your time. I've been preaching that all year. There's no reason to go to the hospital in a trauma situation. Just slow down, take your time, relax. We're in the best place in the world in sunny Florida. Just remember that if you cause a wreck, you could be causing somebody else some damage, their life, everything. Just slow down, relax, and get home safe. And I know that CARE thinks that same way. And I've got very special guests in the house. KEARA, how are you doing?
I'm doing just great, John. Thank you so much for having me again. I appreciate it. And I agree with you about looking out for those motorcycle riders. Absolutely. Stay safe.
Well, you know, I've been riding now for a few weeks, and I got to say, most people, for the most part, they're really watching out. They're really cautious, and I think we're kind of blessed to be near a major Harley Davidson dealer in Burt's Black Widow, and I think people are learning because he's been here long enough now. I think they're getting a sense that there's a lot more motorcycles on the road here than ever before, and along with the fact that gas prices are the way they are, that's what kind of encouraged me to go back to riding a bike. 15 miles a gallon in a pickup truck or 34 miles a gallon on a motorcycle. So.
No brainer. Got it.
and you know, it never fails. But you know, we have these general conversations when we start, but you know, when it comes down to it, CARE does a lot of good for the community about bringing awareness, just like Burt's does with the motorcycles, and it really does matter how much information you get out into the public and kind of make people wake up to what's happening really around them every day. We just had a small incident with Disney, and I say small, it's really major, with some of the human trafficking incidences that they've had with 4 employees up there, which was a major situation. But you know, we've often talked about human trafficking being a problem in the state of Florida. That has to show you that's right in the heart of what we do, and kind of the Disney theme is kind of been I think a little bit tarnished over it, but maybe it'll draw some awareness to the fact that it's real.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, as you may know, that Florida is number 3 in the country for human trafficking. Human trafficking, I heard someone say it once, and it's the truth. When you use drugs, drugs are over, but you can use a person over and over again. They're a reusable commodity. They used to be 3rd in the world for money earned, and now they're 2nd, only behind drugs. And you're right. It's horrifying to think about Disney employees, people that we think we can trust. We think, oh, there's got to be great people working at Disney. But the reality is it does shine a spotlight on the fact that you never know. You never know what goes on behind closed doors. You never know what that person's real agenda or motive is. And as scary as it is, sometimes we need that fear to motivate us to take action and to kind of open our eyes to the fact that, you know, this is going around, and people people think, oh, not in Charlotte County. It happens in every county, and definitely happens in Charlotte County. And it's more and more pervasive. It's happening in communities that you would never think, the ones you think are maybe kind of insulated from all that stuff. And shining that spotlight and having it show that these people that have normal everyday jobs that are going to work, and they have a flip side to them. There's another side that goes on, and we can never really trust someone totally. And that's a shame, but that knowledge is power and helps us kind of adjust how we interact with people, adjust how we protect our children or protect our women. I mean, it's all over. And the only way we can ever really, truly make the adjustments and the changes is with that information. So as scary as that was, it was I'm glad that the light gets shown on that and people get to see what's really going on.
So I'm actually I want to stay here just for a few minutes. I know you have a lot of things going on
Sure.
this month, but
No, that's okay.
I think it's because it's Disney. Um, One, it gets kind of brushed away too by some in the media because they don't want to hurt Disney. But
Mhm.
I believe that you have to kind of exploit this information out to enhance the public on it really happened at Disney and it really happens in our community. And
Mhm.
there are people that live within Disney, and I mean that seriously too, because there are some people that just live and breathe Disney that are
Mm.
kind of in that depression world right now because they can't believe that it actually occurred there. And I just have to say that's kind of normal. And I hate to sound like it's normal, but it kind of is normal because it just because it's Disney, it's not protected from it. Go
Right.
ahead. Go ahead. I know you're.
Well, no, I know I'm chomping at the bit. No, but you know what? It is because we tend to think so. Disney's there's that was it at the happiest place on earth, and we think that they take a special extra level of care in vetting their employees, and they do the best that they can. But honestly, you can't know everything about everyone, especially if they don't have a record. And a lot of these traffickers have gone, unseen. They kind of navigate through, behind closed doors that people don't actually know who's who. And unfortunately, it, it is a dichotomy because you don't want to think that we don't want to put a mark against Disney, but that is so important to understand that even at Disney, even in the happiest place on earth, there are people that have nefarious reasons for getting close to children, getting close to women. They're not motivated just by the fact that they want to work in a resort environment and help people on the rides. They have something else going on, and we can never truly vet somebody that well to know. The fact that it happens at Disney it's startling and powerful all at the same time because there's an expectation. We think that Disney's kind of, this well, it's like a magic kingdom. But
It's a
but that being said, not everybody. We don't know who's wearing, the costume, from Monsters Inc. Who's in that suit? Who's getting up close to children? Who's, I mean, honestly, you never really know. And unfortunately, while I don't want Disney to be besmirched. We have to put that it's people. Unfortunately, it's people in law enforcement. It's people in military. It's people in clergy members. It's everybody. It's all walks of life. So we're just trying to shine a light that honestly it happens all over. We never know who somebody really truly is. And we just have to take steps to be extra cautious. We have to know who our children are talking to. We cannot be alone in certain situations. We can't be going to our car, even leaving Disney at 2 or 3 in the morning by ourselves because people are lurking in the shadows. And sometimes they're lurking out in the open. We just have to be more aware of our environment. And I know the onus is on the trafficker, but there's nothing wrong with being cautious and taking extra steps to protect ourselves and our family and our loved ones.
I listened to a YouTube video on the whole situation up there, along with several other things, because we've got I just love the guy, Grady Judd. Um,
Great.
uh,
Yes.
just a superstar in his
Uh,
own mind, and everyone else is too. And I don't even think that he thinks he's a superstar, but he turns out to be a rock star in the law enforcement field. But there was a judge that got caught up into some of the situations, not just with Disney, but in the prostitution ring that they also caught at the same time. And not that prostitution is something we talk about all the time, but that's also something that can be linked to everything that we're talking about with the human trafficking and the abuse. And there's just so much. But what amazed me was when he talked about the judge from Illinois. And it was just like, if you don't understand that that guy was a retired judge and was in our state seeking prostitution and got caught, 74 years old.
Mm.
To me, it really has. We really need to exploit this stuff. I'm more disappointed, I think, in the aspect that normal everyday TV doesn't want to talk about it because it might be harmful to the dollars. Okay, I understand that. I get it. But think of it this way. How many parents go there with their guard down because they think it is the safest place in the world? And I talked to a police officer once who said, because there was robberies, and I said, if they ever mess with me, I'll be home, I'll take care of it. And I was blessed one time where I had somebody break into the house and I did take care of it. I was there, and the kid doesn't probably want to come back to my house. At the same time, I will say that the police officer told me that bad people work all day long to try to figure out how to penetrate into what we're doing every day. And while we go out and we spend 15 minutes on looking for a security system or cameras, they spend days figuring out how to go around the camera. And there's perspective in that whole scenario, even with human trafficking, with abuse. All of these things, the abusers take their time. They know how to manipulate. They know how to conquer the victim. And victims come in many forms. I'm dealing with some things out there in life that people tend to go back, and we've talked about this on the show. They go back to their abuser, and they go back and they go back and they go back. And I've had this conversation recent, and I've got to say it because I'm not going to drop names or anything like that, but I just had a really bold conversation with a victim. And if there's a victim out there listening, feel free just to relax for a second. This is not about you, but it might be eye-opening or ear-opening. 5 times is too many. 1 time is too many. But 5 times, I just want you to know on the side that your friends and your family are on, it's not the fact that it was the 5th time. It was the fact that the person said it was done. It was done at 5. It was done at 4. And we all have to kind of sit back and hold our breath and realize that our biggest fear is that you might go back for a 6th. And I actually had that open dialogue this week with someone and told them this was my biggest fear, is that you might actually open your heart and your door again for a 6th time. And I know I've gone from Disney to this, but it's so linked together. It's such a holy cow. I'm goosebumped, but I'm frustrated at the same time because you just want to grab a hold and say, wake up. I'm tired of the word woke. I'm done with woke. I'm over woke. I'm woke now. I'm ready for the rebound from all of the BS that we're getting spewed at us when normal everyday people, and I'm not talking extreme here or extreme there, normal everyday working class people who just grind it out to survive are already stressed beyond limits. And then you deal with Disney, and you understand that Disney's supposed to protect your kid. You're supposed to be protected in that zone. And then you look at Sheriff Judd and you realize that he's working double and triple time. It's unbelievable how much resource that is generated, and he put it on display. And what was really evident was that rape and prevention was dead center. It was the counseling at the end. He had all the check marks, everything he had lined up, every person, every department that was involved in the consultation of the takedown. And that's what you guys do. And I don't even know that people understand that side of it. And we've been on the air talking about it. But I hated to go into that, but people need to hear that this is real. People need to understand that it's every freaking day. And it's a grind for people. Go ahead.
Absolutely. First of all, I love that, Sheriff. It's refreshing because he calls it out and he'll point out these individuals from all walks of life. But you're right. So going back to when COVID first happened and schools were basically going to all online, there was this theory put out that it became the hunting ground for these predators. As it's almost, if you look at them, you don't necessarily think of them as sophisticated, but their techniques are ever evolving, ever changing. They adapt. When you said they're always one step ahead. So wherever we're doing to protect, they already have the next technique, the next game plan. The fact that they recruit through online gaming, that you think your child's talking with another teenager, and that's not the case. It's some 45-year-old man living across the country. They know how to get in. They're so their technique. I mean, I wish they used their powers for good instead of evil, but that's what it is, because they know how to attract, recruit, persuade. And when you talk about the fact that like even the sites, they have the child pornography sites. The FBI, they have special divisions, and they say for every site they shut down, like 10 more pop up the next day.
Yep.
We can never get ahead. But when you talk about these people, like the techniques and how they're always ahead and they're always adapting, it's the same thing with abusers. One of the things is we learned during our training here is it's an average of 7 times before somebody actually leaves for good. And there's a variety of reasons that happen. And what we do is we never tell anybody outright, you need to go, you need to leave, because they're used to probably being under the thumb of somebody, and we don't want to be telling them what they should and shouldn't do. But we kind of come up with a safety plan. The time that they actually do leave for good, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. And maybe the time when they leave the first couple of times, they're not ready financially, they're not prepared, they don't have a place to go. So we create a safety plan for them when the time comes that they can leave for good. The other thing about it is that even these relationships have this horrific component of abuse, and the abuse can be many forms. There's still levels sometimes of love that we can't imagine that people can still love somebody that's abused them, but not all times with that person were they weren't all bad. There were some good. Now I'm sure the bad completely outweigh the good, but there's heart for these people. They still have love for the people they abuse them. If you look at children that go into foster care, this happens all the time. They can be horrifically abused, and they still want, and even the courts want, the reunification with the parents. And we think, well, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense. The parents did not take care of these children or this child when they had the chance. Why are we giving them every opportunity? Because we believe that is the best goal, is that reunification. And a lot of times it's not. And the courts give chance after chance after chance. So when you have somebody who's trying to leave an abusive relationship, there's still a level of connection. And whether that be through children, whether it be financial, because they don't have anywhere to go, they're afraid. A lot of times they go back to the abuser. Maybe there's good feelings there on some level, but a lot of it's fear or the unknown of what now, where do I go, what do I do? But it's the same thing you were just talking about, how when we talk about these human traffickers, when we talk about the people like working at Disney and all these people that think that they're they're talking to underage children and making dates to see them when it's usually some kind of sting operation. It's people from all walks of life, like a judge, like a doctor. I mean, everywhere. The same thing with these abusers. These abusers are, they might not come across as much, and the way they've treated people in their lives is grotesque, but there's a level of sophistication where they can manipulate and use whatever they have, whether it be the connection with the children, whether it be the money, whether it be the, you break somebody down so much and they feel this is the only person that will ever love them, even though what they do to me, even though I might not survive the next assault. Sometimes I think this is as good as it's ever going to get. I mean, I do a jail group, and I remember that there's a common theme throughout this with a lot of the women that are abused is that they'll be told they are nothing, they'll have nothing, they'll be nothing, but they rather be told that than to be told nothing. Sometimes it's easier to be with the person that's the most abusive than to be alone. So I see why there's an average of 7 times before it takes someone to leave for good. A lot of that is just the preparation and the planning and making the steps. And a lot of the times the steps have to be done covertly because there's a risk that's attached if their abuser knows that they're making that plan. So we try to make sure that they have that safety plan. They have a place to go. Sometimes it's out of county, sometimes it's out of state. But you're right. There's a common level there's a theme that runs throughout these people that recruit minors and recruit vulnerable individuals and abuse, that they know how to prey upon people. They know that Achilles heel, that vulnerability, that weak spot that they can they're so invasive and they can worm their way in. And unfortunately, sometimes the outcome is not always positive. It's not always a great outcome. It's not always the sting operation. The date that's made with the minor is not always a police undercover agent. Sometimes it is the minor. Sometimes the person goes back for the 6th time and doesn't get a 7th time to go. And we can't let that deter us from the reality that if you work with 10 individuals and 9 of them go back, then maybe the one that leaves on that time makes it worth it. We're here for anybody, but I understand that you'll see somebody, you'll invest in them, you'll empower them, and then you find out that they've gone back. And I can't take that personally, and I can't hold it against them. I just can only be there for them for the next time and hope to God that they are safe and they are doing what's best for them and maybe their children. There's a lot of factors that go into that decision. And we're just like the fact that we're 24 hours a day means that if they reach out in the middle of the night and this is the time that this is it, they're done, then we're there for them. That's the most that we can do. And we just hope that if they ever need us, that they reach out before it's too late.
And I'm going to ask you this because the truth of the matter is, while everyone at CARE does care, I've talked to, I believe, just about everybody there at one point or another, and some who have come and gone, and come back. So I'm experiencing my situation on a really small scale. And because I have spent 3 years talking to people at CARE, I know what to say. I know how to listen. I sat one night, I got to tell you, for probably 4 hours, and I listened. And then the individual asked me a question, and I gave my answer. And it was controlled, precise, and direct. And it was received with something I was not ready for. But I love the person. Okay, I get it. I understand. My question to you and to staff isn't what should I do? Isn't it real to have that same level of compassion working for CARE?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things, and my supervisor is probably watching and going to remind me, but it's all about as much as we do, we have to have boundaries too. And we can only do so much, and we can having that compassion is huge. Having coming from a stance where you're not I mean, I can't tell you how much they emphasize this through when you go through your training is that you cannot tell somebody what they can do, what they should do. You cannot be judgmental. You cannot say things that would in any way make them feel bad about the decisions or the choices they make. What we do primarily is listen, give options, empower, and like you said, care. And another point to that is that we actually offer counseling, not just for the people that go through it, but we have counseling for what we call secondary victims. There's a lot of people that come in, especially parents, whose adult child is in a relationship and where they're being abused. And they are on the sidelines, they're bystanders, and they can't do anything. But seeing someone they love being hurt so much, that's a secondary trauma. So we literally offer services for those people that they're where their loved ones are being abused, where their loved ones have been assaulted, where their loved ones are being hurt because they feel helpless. And no matter how old their child is, they're a grown adult, most of them, they're still parents and they still feel that they should be doing more when the reality is their adult child is making adult decisions. But having to stand back and watch that and not being able to reach in and pull them and rescue them, that can be there's parents that call up that are distraught. I can't tell you. And one of the things we do is when people reach out for help is it has to be the person themselves. We do have people that call up for their loved ones, and the only requirement is we need your loved one to reach out, just so we can interact and get some information from them. It's not to be controlling or to be restrictive, but we need that individual to kind of make that first step. But there are parents that call up all the time and say, I don't know what to do. I feel helpless. I feel hopeless. I've tried everything. I've offered my home. I've offered money. And they're making a decision that I am completely and utterly against. And the only thing that we can do is give them that counseling and says, listen, what you're feeling is normal. What you're feeling is it's that not being able to intervene. It's like you see someone drowning and you wanting their first your instinct is to throw them a life preserver and they don't want the life preserver. So then what? Now what? Now what do you do? Because it's paralyzing what you see, and you see people in your life that are not taking the help that we think they should or we wish they could. But that's for a variety of reasons. But what we do extend that out to people, if you see someone that you know and you can't, they're not taking the help that you think that they should, or you feel that way, you feel like you're not doing enough, please come in. We have a support group that we're starting. It's for people whose loved ones have been abused. Because there is that, unfortunately, it's very common. There's that, they have that core commonality, which is they all know what it's like to see someone they love in a situation that could be dire, and they feel helpless. So, that our hotline is for anybody that's like that, whether it's primary or secondary. And secondary, like I said, is anybody on the outside watching and not being and feeling that they can't do enough or they're not being allowed to do enough. And that's huge because I can't tell you how many parents call up and they feel useless. And it's not about that. It's just you have adult children that make adult choices. You can only do so much and they can only take your advice so many times. They have to make the decision ultimately. So
Well, I several things like hit me and we've talked for 3 years about different topics, but we've talked in general about what CARE does. And I think what really, it doesn't bother me. It makes me feel like we're not being represented the right way in public with this conversation. I've been a huge advocate for CARE. I think Disney needs to step their game up and they need to absolutely correct everything that they're doing and they need to do it publicly. They really do. Their game right now is really bad. They need to change their players. They need to get people involved that are going to correct these things. and they need to grab a hold of a CARE in their community up in Orlando, and they need to pull them in and say, where is this all going? Because they are professionals at children and entertainment. Okay. They're not professionals at abuse, human trafficking. We're learning now that they're professionals of sweeping it under the carpet. This is an opportunity for them to be a teaching mechanism. And they've taught our kids. I mean, they taught me Mickey Mouse. I remember Mickey Mouse Club when I was a kid, so they've been part of the fabric of a lot of youthful things. Okay. Unfortunately, we have a lot of youthful things that they could be a leadership in now. And I think, and I know this isn't a topic about Disney, but it kind of is. If we don't have organizations like Disney step forward and take a joint effort to say to people, this is real. This is not only in your household, it's in ours. They could be a leader in Florida outside of entertainment if they, and I want to say this because it's kind of weird how this is going to come out. They're kind of sheltering the abusers. So are they abusive at this point? And the fact that they're condoning, they're not condoning, maybe hiding the fact that they don't want this information out because it could be damaging. It's sort of almost like I feel like I'm talking about a victim because they're hiding and they don't want people to know and they don't want the wrong perception out there. That to me is what a victim goes through. And I'm not a victim, but I'm so frustrated by this whole thing right now and then pile that with the fact that I'm having a conversation with someone that it just feels almost parallel to each other because everybody's got an excuse instead of just saying, you know what, it's real. Realtalk is saying it's real. We've been saying it's real for 3 years. We've had these open dialogues. You guys do fundraisers. You guys bring awareness into the forefront of our community. I just hope our community embraces CARE and really kind of puts pressure on organizations like Disney. They're not by themselves. They're not. Right. They're just, they're just a powerful group. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Wendy.
No, that's okay. No, what I was going to say is that if they do nothing, they're complicit in what takes place. And one of the things that I actually watched a webinar, and one of the techniques that traffickers use is with the grooming. And one of the ways they groom is by taking people to theme parks and resorts. And Disney's opening up in several more countries. And this happens across the globe. So there are signs, there are telltale things that are overt. We teach medical personnel. We teach, we tell teachers signs that you can maybe spot. It's if you see something, say something. Law enforcement personnel. If you have a place that is making millions and millions and millions of dollars of people coming in, there could be some way that, that we could set something up where they know, you can have a list of what to look for. If a child's not being allowed to answer, I'm not going to go into all the cues, but there's so many out there. And you're right. They're making money off that. And some of the people they're making money off, they had a whole sting years ago for child pornography where they found the children they were able to track down, and it was happening in Disney hotels on Disney property because they could tell from the wallpaper. That's the FBI was able to distinguish. So this was going on right under their notices. And if they're looking the other way, then even though they're not technically the abuser, they are complicit in the abuse. They're complicit in letting this, and they're facilitating these traffickers and these techniques they use in the grooming and taking the kids on the rides and everything else in order to get to a point, you treat them all nice and great this week because next week you're going to use them for nefarious reasons. And there are ways to spot that. And there should be a way that as we teach, I'm sure Disney has policies to teach about how employees have to respect each other. And, there shouldn't be harassment in the workplace, which is great. I'm supportive of that. But maybe they need to start turning their focus on what's happening to the people that are coming in and out of the parks day by day, thousands and thousands of people. And they have so many, and you can say, well, I don't understand how could they ever really figure things out? They have so many employees. I mean, and all the security cameras they have and all the ways that Disney monitors so that nothing happens, that people don't get mugged or, assaulted at a theme park. Well, maybe they need to start paying attention to what's going on with these people that are taking children. You see a grown man with a teenage girl. I call it the spidey sense, but sometimes you have that instinct where it says something's not right. And most times, not every time, but a lot of times when you get that gut instinct, it's true. And if you see something, you say something. There's nothing wrong with saying something and bringing it to law enforcement and reaching out and saying, listen, something's off here. I mean, they remember there was the case of the child that was abused in Orlando, and the waitress knew that something was off. The child wasn't allowed to order or speak or anything. And the waitress wrote on a napkin, I believe it was, to the child, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" And the child, God bless the child having the guts. I mean, he must have been terrified, but he wrote that he was in danger. And she called the police, and this kid had been being tortured for God knows how long, and they arrested the people. But it takes that waitress, and she's like, I didn't do anything, but she did. She paid attention. You know what I mean? It wasn't just another day on the job. Maybe we have to, instead of focusing on, getting people through the line quickly or making sure that we sell the most cookies, that we actually stop and kind of take a moment and recognize if something's off, we need to alert somebody. They should have some kind of policy in place that gives you the signs, especially when they're dealing primarily with tourists and children. And I mean, that's a breeding ground sometimes for those people. That's how they kind of curry favor with these kids to then turn around and use them for God knows what, you know what I mean? But I agree. I think that Disney could go a long way in towards making advances and kind of stepping up that game.
And they're not by themselves, but they could be a leader. They could be a leader. They're a leader in so many other categories. Why can't they lead in this one? And not stop looking at the dollar. Stop looking at
Right.
how you think people are going to respond. I think people are going to. I think parents are going to respond more in kind to Disney if they actually stood up for principle and did the right thing. Right now, I've lost all confidence in them doing the right thing based on response. Their response to this whole thing has been almost non-existent. It's been, if it goes away, then we don't have to talk about it. And that, to me, I've not been doing for 3 years. I've been talking about this for 3 years. I'm now helping someone realize I've been talking about this for 3 years. And then I get hit with Disney. And I think I'm beyond, and I'm beyond frustrated with interpretation of what is valuable, because we're looking past human life to the dollar. And I think anytime that you look past human life to the dollar, you're setting yourself up for massive failure in many categories. And I think people do that a lot. And abusers, Wendy, I know Wendy's commented several times. I've had Wendy on the show, and she's taught me a lot. And
my supervisor, by the way.
and maybe that's why I'm more frustrated now, because I actually understand the frustrating side of it. But the beauty in what C.A.R.E offers, and maybe you can speak to this for a second, is that if someone gets on the hotline They don't see this guy this upset. I'm not this upset on a normal phone call. I'm not this upset with my friend. Okay. I am calm, cool, collected, listening, and adapting to a situation, and trying to answer with the most professional, friend, compassionate response I can do. Isn't that what happens with care? Isn't it a more versus this dialogue that we're having now, where it's truly maybe to just wake someone up enough to have them realize it, all this stuff that's happening around us every day is real. It's attacking people every day. And care has to not just take it in, but you guys listen all the time. And I think maybe your frustrations is more in house than it is outside, just because you want to help everyone, anybody who calls, and you have to be so patient. Can you talk about that side of it? Because I know we've been
No,
frustrated part. Go ahead.
well, it's so true. Patience is a virtue that I work on daily to try to attain. But a- I understand that you meet people where they're at. And when that phone call comes in, you know, you might be dealing with someone that's in crisis at that very moment. We talked about listening last month about the volunteers. And sometimes that's all it takes. But you brought up a real important word. It's being able to adapt. So when someone calls up, that's actually one of the things that they emphasize through training is really listening. We have, instead of just rattling off a list of services, kind of listening to what somebody has to say in that moment, validating what they're saying, no blame, no judgment, compassion, empowerment, options that they may have. Sometimes you're on the phone and they want to talk about other things, and that's okay. Whatever gets them through. The fact that they can call at any point of the day or night. I used to work overnight, and sometimes I still do. And getting a call at 3:30 in the morning because maybe their abuser has gone to work and he works the overnight shift, and this is the only chance they have to reach out. And there was I'm not going to break confidentiality, but there was a young lady who called up once, and she said, "I really don't want to talk about what goes on in my life. I just want to talk about how much I like to cook." I said, "Okay," because cooking was an outlet for her. And when I first started here, I'd been like, "I don't even get that. Why is she talking about that?" Because that's what's getting her through at that moment. And all she needs for me to do is sit back and listen and talk to her about that. Because all she needs in that moment in time is somebody that just doesn't judge or yell or complain or denigrate. I mean, when you live in a whole life and everything you do, you are beyond micromanaged. Everything is under scrutiny. Everything. Did you mop the floors right? Did you buy the right cheese? And then you call up and you have somebody who just wants to have a conversation, just to chat about anything or nothing. Being able to adapt and answer and listen and just that, having someone on the other end pick up when you call can make all the difference, and being able to adapt. And I honestly, it is about making sure that even though the voice in my head might be screaming, "You need to leave," I don't say that. I say whatever gets her through that call, and let her know that she can reach out at any time, and to emphasize all of our services are free and confidential. And just having that awareness within myself that I am meeting people sometimes, like especially you go to hospital response, you're meeting someone sometimes in the worst moment of their lives. And you need to keep it together and make sure that they know that you are there for them, that you're advocating in any capacity they need you to be advocating. And if they want to talk about cooking or they want to talk about the Marlins or whatever it is, that's okay. And it goes a long way, because if you develop that rapport, this might not be the moment in time that they decide that they're going to leave, but if they develop a rapport and they feel that they can trust and that they can feel heard and they can feel validated and they can feel empowered, then that next call might be the call that says, you know what, I'm ready. I want to come in. I want to get to shelter. I want to go to North Carolina, whatever it is. That goes a long way because they're living in a world where most of the times it's very hard to trust people because they've been betrayed, especially probably by the person they love most, who has betrayed them when they abuse them day in, day out. So to develop some kind of rapport with a stranger on another, just on the other end of a phone, where it can say to them, "You listen, okay, now I think I could reach out because I didn't feel judged and I didn't feel compelled to do what they wanted me to do. I'm still autonomous. I still make my own choices, but now I have choices to make and I have options." That's key. I mean, that's basically a job in a nutshell, is just being there for somebody. And like you said, caring, listening, adapting, and empowering.
That was why I was so impressed with the press conference, is because I've understood what you guys do from years now of doing this show. And when I watched him introduce his team, his support staff, the sheriff's department did not do it by itself. Now, on the other side of that, look at the harm that was caused by the 4 people at Disney to kids and families. Sorry, wake up. Kids and families of 4 employees of Disney, and they're shutting it down. They should be talking about it to educate people on what to look out for, because in the real world, judges do stupid stuff. People do stupid things. And the reality is, if we all don't push our bigger organizations, maybe they need woke. Maybe they need it. And I'm leaning in, and I should be looking at the camera, because the frustration I feel is that I think as individuals, we're always told we're not on. But we're not the ones hiding all this. And Disney's not by itself. There's other organizations out there that haven't been spotlighted. I hope Grady Judd goes and gets them and spotlights them just as well as he did Disney. I think the more that he draws attention to the cause of abuse, of human trafficking, I don't want to be number 3 anymore. I don't think he wants to be number 3 anymore. And I know that you guys don't want to be number 3. You love your jobs, but you'd love to work yourself out of a job. And it's not going to go away unless more people are aware of what's happening within our own community. And if a judge can do it, okay, if they can go down and name the 4 people and give their history, and they were some not so bad, but some, oh my God, how did they get the job to begin with? I just have to wonder. But aren't they working in our kitchens? Aren't they working at Chuck E. Cheese? Aren't they working? They're all out there. They're prevalent in the community. And if parents don't get the wake-up call to maybe scan the crowd better or watch out for whoever's putting your kid on the ride, I got to tell you, I've been to Disney with my granddaughter. It's going to take me a lot to go back, but if I am that guy, if anything would happen to her, somebody better tackle me and hold me down, because I will rip through shreds of everything to get to the individual, and until organizations start acting like that and start scanning their employees, I think we're going to all have to be on the defensive a lot more. We're emptying our jails faster than ever before. And I'm still throwing my hands in the air because I think that criminals are criminals. And yes, while I want to help revive them, some people, and I say this graciously, some people just don't have the capability of being rejuvenated. And, when you have a track record, sort of like an abuser, I hate to say it, but if you're 6 or 7 time in being abused, your abuser probably doesn't have a good track record for kind of turning a corner.
Right.
I don't want to deflate at what we're talking about, but everything is kind of coming to a head, I think, when you start like being real and just looking at everything
Right.
wide open and saying,
Right.
all these things matter. Decisions matter. To me, it just, I think I'm beyond. Maybe you saw me on the show last time. I don't think I was this frustrated. I'm more frustrated this time through, and I hadn't really vented until the show, and I kind of let my frustration out, and I hope it really makes somebody think. And I know you've done a great job explaining things and trying to make sure that people at CARE are not there to do anything but help.
Right. And can I just say something, John? I just want to bring up one quick thing about the judge at 74 years old. That's not a fluke.
No,
That's something that's happened before. This is just when he's caught. I just like to bring up a couple of things, if I can, for the month of April, since it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
We got 3 minutes. They're all yours.
Oh, terrific. Thank you so much. So April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And on the 5th, I know it's past the 5th, we wore teal for support. On the 6th of April, the Punta Gorda City Council issued a proclamation. It was called the Start by Believing, and it will happen every year from now on, the first Wednesday of every April. On the 16th of April at the Mid-County Regional Library on Forest Nelson in Port Charlotte, we're having from 10 to 2. It's Messages to Survivors. We have a bunch of events going on there. I think it's face painting, and we're doing crafts, and it's kind of writing letters just to survivors, kind of to empower them. There's no prior registration needed. On the 16th, Today Matters at the First United Methodist Church in Punta Gorda. That's their mental health ministries. The doors open at 3:15, and they're going to have an undercover sheriff's deputy from a Midwest city who deals specifically in human trafficking and what he's seen, what he's encountered, and things that he believes could make the difference to help end child exploitation and sex trafficking. On the 23rd, as you so graciously have put up, is our Walk for Awareness, and that's at, as it says, Larry Taylor Kiwanis Park on Midway. The first 50 registrants get a free T-shirt and come out. That's for, just like I said, Walk for Awareness, just kind of promoting the idea that we believe and that we're aware, and the more people that we can make aware, the more survivors have an outlet to reach out and feel empowered. And then on the 27th is Denim Day. We wear denim in support of survivors. It has to do with the story that happened in Italy. I would encourage everyone to Google it. I don't know if I have enough time to go into it, but it's pretty powerful in and of itself. And all of our social media at CARE Charlotte County. Come on and check us out. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Services are free and confidential. Whatever we can do to help you get through this part of your life and empower you on to better things, we would love to be able to have that opportunity. And I appreciate, John, you giving us the chance to come on monthly and speak, and we're super grateful for that. Thank you so very much.
Well, you guys do an amazing, a really amazing job, and a thankless amazing job. So I give kudos. You just had the CARE Ball and raised a lot of money that's really going to go to magnificent use. I couldn't get that word out for love nor money, but I've got just a few seconds left, and I want to thank Wendy for being out there and communicating while we were on air, and I want to thank CARE for being there. So thank you very much, and you guys have a great day. Okay.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. You do the same. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This is John Rawlings with C.A.R.E saying thanks. Have a great day. And we will see you. Gosh, is this Monday? We'll see you on
I
Friday.
think so.
Have a great day, folks. Drive safe. Bye-bye now.